There's a craze that's sweeping the world right now that has many people scratching their heads. It involves wearing flowy dresses, waistcoats, overalls, taking up needleworking, bird watching, collecting, and calligraphy. It embraces bookstores and finding ways to repurpose items into new lives. In case you haven't guessed it by now by these images or by the name of this video, we're going to talk about cottagecore today. In order to truly understand cottagecore, we need to get to the root. We need to understand what a cottage is. See, growing up in America, I always thought a cottage was just a house out in the country. I didn't think that it was anything special. Well, apparently it comes from the Middle Ages, the feudal England to be precise. You see, the cottage was part of the lord's estate. The lord offered places to house those that he needed work from. So, if you were an artisan, if you were a blacksmith, if you were a farrier, if you had a skill that was required but not used all the time, the lord of the land would give you a cottage. You were considered a cottager. And in payment for doing the task that you could do, you were allowed to live in this house virtually rent-free. So the original cottages were artisans' houses. Now let's fast forward 200, 300, 400, 500 years, if you will. And the cottage is turned into a vacation home. It's like a mountain cabin. In France, a chalet would be considered a cottage. Granted, some of the chalets that I've seen in France are huge. They're like mansions at this point. But to be considered a cottage, it has to be a smaller home in traditional architecture in a rural or suburban area. That's basically it. That's what a cottage is. So what is with the cottagecore? Why am I wearing a waistcoat? Why am I wearing linen? Of all these things, why has this craze taken over the world? Cottagecore is an attempt to reconnect with simpler times. My research found it to be in response to hyper-consumerism, a global pandemic, or as a way of escapist reality. It can become whatever you need it to be, but the goal of it really is to live in a simpler life. Some of the goals of the movement is to reconnect with nature, to decentralize the economy, and to live in a more community-based system. All of these sound kind of nice, if you will. Many who are drawn to this aesthetic do things such as organize swap meets, procure their clothing from thrift stores, or make it themselves. These ideals of reuse and repurpose makes this environmental scientist's heart fill with joy. Some of the other things that I really love, these ideals of reuse, recycle, and upcycle make this environmental scientist happy. But it goes deeper than that. Common hobbies include bird watching, beekeeping, gardening. But the one thing that really makes my heart sing is the ideal of simple living. You see, people who are enthusiasts of the cottagecore aesthetic, they tend to choose tea parties over Instagram. They choose family time over work email requirements. They have one of the best work-life balances, and that's something that we should all strive for. I kind of want to add more of that to my life, more of that cottagecore lifestyle of work is over, it's time to concentrate on what we need the most in our lives. How great would that be? So, what do you think of this aesthetic? Do you like it? Is it something that speaks to you? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe if you like the idea of history meeting the ideals of simple living. We'll see you next time.